Hey, station all you sci-fi junkies out there, Scarpad. Hey, thanks for coming tonight and checking out Scarpad's Sci-Fi Sojourns, where we look at great and maybe not so great science fiction films. Hey, we'll have a dog every now and then too, I'm sure. Tonight we're looking at a really upbeat, cheery holiday film. Nah, I'm fucking with you. It's Children of Men. It's bleak and depressing, just what you want on your holiday. And of course, because of that, everybody we're going to have on the show said, we ain't coming on and talk about that. No, not true. Dylan is not going to be able to make it. He's not feeling too well today, and Perry's busy. So we got Steph, who doesn't mind being bummed out as shit.
Yeah, very true. He
likes watching some depression movies, you know, and
yeah. You know,
last week Clockwork Orange. This week, Children of Men.
There's underlying little nuggets of hope, more so throughout this film than Clockwork Orange. But you know that Clockwork Orange, there's a message behind it. I don't mind these dark, bleak films when there's an underlying message of like hope and change throughout them.
Right. All right. So tonight's movie is directed by and produced and written by Alfonso Cuarón. He's a Mexican director who's probably, best known in this country for producing Gravity a few years back with George Clooney. And his biggest, he produced it, and his biggest hit, where he wrote and produced and directed, was Why Mama Tambien, which is a Mexican film or Spanish film.
He also did a Little Princess. That I looked that up last night, and that blew my mind. Like, that's a film from my childhood.
I'm not familiar with that one, but yeah, he's done a lot. And he adapted this from a novel, and this has bits and pieces of the novel. He took what he wanted from it, which is a lot of the setting, and some of it he discarded and changed around a little bit. But basically, it tells a story of a time, sometime in the future, not too futuristic, where something has happened, and that something is the fact that people can't procreate anymore. Women can't give birth. And that's plunged the whole world into chaos. And Britain, those with the stiff upper lip in Britain, are the last ones really to survive or really to hold it together. But you see in this film not really holding it together all that well. And this came out in 2006. And I think a lot of the reason why it has become popular again and why people are seeking it out is because it has somehow been able to kind of prophesy some of the stuff we're going through now, mainly the biggest theme of like immigration and what's done to the immigrants trying to get into this country for one reason or the other. And also and also a pandemic, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
What could happen after that? So a whole bunch of stuff. The film opens pretty, and within the first 10 minutes, this world is set up perfectly. You know that women can no longer give birth. The youngest
person in the world
who was a dick, according to this guy, who was a real wanker, has died, has gotten murdered. Everybody's crying. Coffee shop. There's a great scene when the explosion that happens. You're in this world from the first 5 minutes of this movie, and that's why I really, really enjoyed it. There's a lot of bleak dystopian movies out there. I think the one that kind of comes up closest to this maybe would be The Road with Viggo Mortensen. I don't know if you've seen.
Oh yeah, and he's young. It's got the young Nightcrawler in it from the new X-Men movies. Right. Yeah, that was a great movie, but yeah, very bleak.
Very bleak. This one I think that one's even bleaker than this one.
Absolutely.
But this one, it's a very interesting, in-depth story where this guy who's the main protagonist, played by Clive Owen, was a radical, and he's kind of lost his way and became kind of like a government employee now, sitting at a desk, kind of robotic, going through the motions. He's an alcoholic. He lost his wife, who's now leading a fanatical group of terrorists or extremists that are looking to use what we find out is this new unborn child. Everybody wants to use him as a pawn for some reason. And then we meet up with another probably 60s radical ex-professor played by
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine, who's fantastic in this movie. I tell you, he's probably my vote for my favorite character. And then you get to see this whole journey, and the movie itself is a series of really one long shots with very cleverly hidden cuts.
Yes,
where you get to see not only what he's experiencing, but the camera will often pan off and will often get random shots. It kind of just establishes what's going on in this world. But before we get too much in depth of this, I want to thank everybody for coming in. We got One Collection Down Station. How you doing? Perry's in the house. How you doing, Perry? Two Gun Pedro.
Just gonna hold it up for you guys.
Two Gun Pedro Station. Two Gun. I got to talk to Two Gun because I want to get him on the show.
Hell yeah.
He wants to come on. I think it's time to get Two Gun Pedro on the panel, and then we'll see which one he's gonna do. So the whole movie is almost like one long escape scene. They're always running from one area to the next. But Steph, your initial impressions of the flick.
I saw this when I was a big Clive Owen fan back in the day, just because I had seen him in I think it was King Arthur, it's an alright movie. I haven't seen it in a few years, but I remember and then he was in something with Natalie Portman called like Closer or something like that.
Right.
And I was like, oh, Natalie Portman's badass. And then he was in Sin City. So after Sin City, I was like, okay, I'm gonna follow Clive Owen throughout his career. He's badass. This came out like the year after Sin City, and this always left an impression on me. Like this, I always like to tell people about my my movie experiences. Like coming out of high school, there's a few select movies that kind of left an impact on me, that wanted me to like dive deeper into the world of film, and this was one of them. Like at 18, if it didn't have action, I didn't want to see it, and if it was a movie that didn't have action that stood out to me, like I took notice of that, and this is one of those movies. I've seen this movie throughout the years, always loved it, but I have not seen it in like the last 3. I was telling you in the back chats that I haven't seen it since my son's been born. And seeing this movie now as a parent, like I always loved it, but I love this movie even more being a parent. And this movie's great. It's just, Clive Owen, he plays a cool, reluctant hero, almost like, but he has a good reason for being reluctant. Like he's lost something, the world's going to shit, and caring about stuff sometimes can make you vulnerable, leave you open to get hurt. So he's kind of just shut himself down. He's numb to everything else. He's just kind of on autopilot going throughout life. And he really steps up to the plate. He has it's just a cool journey. With his character,
he makes the ultimate sacrifice really for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was so numb for like 20 years. When did the movie start off? What year?
2027. A scant 4 years from now, or 5 years.
So Michael Caine said he had lost his son in like 2008. So it had been like 20 years.
Right.
He just kind of,
and that's why they broke up. You imagine that's the reason that him and his wife broke
that would
up
be
in
tough.
different ways. But I said at the top of the show that sorry for making you watch this at Christmas time, but really this movie has a religious background. This is almost could be the story, little Christ-like story there of the it wasn't an immaculate conception because obviously she said she didn't know who the wanker was, but so there was a father. The birth of Jesus, trying to find a place to have the baby and having all these other people come and try to lay claim to it. A lot of really big scenes in this movie. I mean, it's hard to pick any one, but there's, but it really gives you a good feeling of a war. I mean, you're right you're right in the middle of it. But yeah, I think the biggest thing that sticks up for me is that you're seeing now is just what a country will do when something happens like a pandemic or in this case whatever initially caused this sterilization, how the country will close down on itself and start treating people badly and start becoming a police state and start putting just people who want to get away from their troubles and they want to put them in cages. All the immigration problems we're having now, it speaks to a lot of that. People coming away from war, trying to get away from circumstances.
It's even more prevalent now, more poignant, I'd say.
So this movie even has, I think, more to it now than it did. Although, even back 2006, the problems, we still have the same problems we had back then. We haven't solved anything. But it's just a very in-depth movie. And then there is really, other than Clive Owen, we don't get to see any other really groups that are really good at doing things for good reasons.
Right.
The group that his wife's with,
the fish, whatever.
The fish, the 5 fishes, the fish. They want to just have the baby so they can have breed the uprising.
Right.
They can. They have this. They even killed their own leader, so the other guy would rise up, take the place, and take the baby. The government, they can't go to the British government because they'll never accept a baby that was from somebody who was not
a refugee.
And then at the end, they leave it kind of oblique. We don't know what's going to happen with the people in the boat. We're assuming it's open-ended. It could go two ways. They could be this humanist element that they've been looking for, or it could just be another one of these radical groups looking for their own means. We don't find those answers out. So the movie doesn't answer all the questions. But other than really Clive Owen, the girl Ree, who's having the baby, and the baby itself, there really is no protagonist. There are good people though, because we're not, unlike a lot of movies where we got these black and white characters that everybody's bad. The scene I think that stands out to me on this is the scene after everybody in the building, including the soldiers, see that there's a baby there, and
Beautiful
they all just
scene.
stop.
Yeah.
And they're all crying and they can't believe it and they're breaking down. But as soon as they kind of get away and the first bomb comes down, it's back to business and they're bombing the thing,
killing each other
over and over again. That was to me, I probably think the standout scene in the movie. There's a lot of good scenes in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, but my favorite scene was leading up to that. But that one shot scene where he's pretty much they get the baby taken, and Clive Owen is trying to find his way. That whole scene leading up to that is one of the best scenes in cinema history. And that's a particular scene where they're all kind of standing in awe of the baby. As a young man, I was always kind of like, when people get giddy about baby pictures, I get it now, because I see what a baby. I guess you don't have to become a parent, but it took me to become a parent to understand that. Kids are like this. They're distilled hope. They're symbols of hope. constantly symbols of hope.
Well, and plus we're in a country that hasn't seen a baby in 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
So that even doubles down on all that.
But I love that scene because it shows how pointless war is most of the time, even though I know that technology always advances and takes leaps during big wartime. But imagine if everybody had the same opportunities with money, education. Oh, the world would flourish. It doesn't take war for science and medicine to advance. But unfortunately, that's the way the world works.
Right.
But that scene right there kind of like, for me, showed how as soon as they go back to killing each other, it's like, that's so pointless. Like they just saw this life, how precious, this precious little life that they haven't seen, and they're back to taking shit out, But yeah, that was my favorite scene. There's many great scenes that, like you said, there's so many chase scenes in this movie where you feel like you're there with them. Like, oh shit, like when they're in the car and they first shoot Julianne Moore.
Right, exactly. That's almost one long shot, revolving shot, pan around shot. And that shot is done extremely well. There's a lot of that in the movie. He's big on having that one sweeping. Although there's cuts in them, they're very well hidden.
I was looking that up, and he said he chose that route for this movie because he said, in reality, there aren't cuts. Like life is one long continuous shot.
Right.
And so he said, well, he tried to do that the most in the film because he wanted this to feel super, super real.
Mm-hmm.
Well done, though.
Yeah, and the movie's not all, bleak. Obviously, Michael Caine's character's in there for a little light-hearted comic relief.
The relief, yeah.
A little bit, as we can get. He's good in it when he's in there talking about smoking his weed, and he's taking care of his wife.
Cough.
Right. He's caring for his wife, who is catatonic after the government supposedly did something to her. And then the whole scene at the end where he knows he's going to get killed, and he euthanizes her. That's what he's doing there with that bottle and that syringe. He's putting her down. He's killing her because he won't be able to be taken care of. That's a very poignant scene in itself.
Yeah.
Michael Caine, I just think, man, that guy is just a standout. He's been in so many different movies, and he's a different character in every single movie he's in.
This might be one of my favorite Michael Caine roles. It's up there.
He's had so many. It would be hard for me to even pick him, but he was good in this. So you felt it when that character died.
Oh yeah. He was like the voice of he was like he was optimistic, and he was like he was an older cat. Like when he was. Clive Owen had just checked out, but here it is, Michael Caine, his wife's catatonic, the world's going to shit, but he still had like this eternal optimism going on, which, was symbolic of the child later being born to me.
Of course, he was hiding in the woods. They couldn't find him. He was behind this clump of trees and stuff like that. But, something's weeds. Almost like the entrance to the Bat Cave there. So some of the other actors, I can never pronounce his name.
Chiwetel. I can't. Yeah, I know you're talking about
the movies. And he was very good here. Buried under all the dreadlocks, Charlie Hunnam from Sons of Anarchy.
No way.
He was the henchman there. Yeah,
are you serious?
Yeah, go back and look. That was him. Yeah, that was a very early role for Charlie Hunnam. I don't think he even had he had a couple lines in it, but he was
very small. Yeah, he was almost throwaway.
He was the henchman. Yeah. So there's some early performances here.
Julianne Moore, she was actually a great actress.
She wasn't in the movie long. I would have thought to see her in the movie a little bit longer, but I kind of understand why they killed her off.
She was a catalyst.
You weren't expecting it. I mean,
that
was a shock when that happened.
And then to find out that it was all set up by her own group that, I'm not going to want to ruin the movie for people who haven't seen this, but.
They should be seeing it. They should have watched it. Yeah, Charlie Hunnam at the station. Oh, yeah.
Bro.
So I guess music-wise and cinematography-wise, I mean, we've already spoken the cinematography on why this movie wasn't nominated for some kind of Academy Award or some kind of award. The cinematography was top-notch in this. Just the way it was done was unbelievable. And the music, this movie had a lot of interesting musical choices because it varied between the score and using a lot of 60s music like the Rolling Stones songs and the King Crimson song. That scene was very interesting where they had King Crimson playing the over the scene where he's going to see his cousin for the travel passes, and his cousin
Seed.
Yeah, his cousin is all is trying to collect and save all the art sculptors.
No.
That's what he's doing in there. That's why he's got the pig, and he's got the
statue of
the statue.
Yeah.
That was a David statue, I believe, and he has a bunch of other
Okay.
artworks in there. The whole thing with his son was a bit odd.
I didn't get that. I was just gonna say I didn't know what they were trying to go with that. Like I didn't. Was he kind of on the spectrum, or
maybe he's autistic? Maybe something happened. I don't know. But that was an interesting scene, and that whole scene with the pig was a homage to Pink Floyd's Animal cover with the floating flying pigs and stuff like that. So there was a lot of that in this movie. So they did good, really interesting mix of like classic rock and some classical and just some standard the score, which was done very well. But for me, the cinematography will always be the standout.
It was beautifully haunting. It was hauntingly beautiful, should I say? Like when he walks, there's a scene I really like where they get to the school. They're waiting for Sid, and Clive Owen's looking because he just woke up, I guess. And Clive Owen's walking through the deserted school, and he comes across the pregnant woman swinging, and then you see like the little school desks and everything's deteriorated, and then there's like light shining through trees through the windows in it. It was just a beautiful scene.
So just to do the whole set where everything is supposed to look run down, they did a good job of dressing up the city so that it did look that way. You'll see that in a lot of dystopian movies, but a lot of them don't pull it off.
It feels lived in, so lived in.
Yeah. So I would say, going back to my favorite scene, I would say, obviously, I think my favorite scene in the whole movie would have to be the sequence at the end, just because it's so fast paced and it's so claustrophobic at the same time. And then I have that scene with the soldiers and the baby coming out. So overall, the whole sequence, the whole last third of the movie is
masterpiece in filmmaking.
Yeah, and it's very frenetic after really the first third of it being more, solidly paced.
Yeah.
And a little bit more not an action flick really. It jumped into that mode really quick.
And seamless too, like it fit. It didn't come out of any nowhere.
All right. So your favorite character in the movie? I'm going to say for me it's Michael Caine. I like Clive Owen. He'd be my second, but I think Michael Caine's character really set the mood of the film and gave a sense of loss for the main character. So I enjoyed his character.
Yeah.
And what would you say would be your favorite character?
I got to go with my man's Clive Owen. Michael Caine is wonderful. I would go with him as well. But Clive Owen, I think he plays that, like, the circumstances of him being a reluctant hero and how he grows into the role of the hero over the course of the film is so well done. And he's very subtle about it. Like like I said, he's a man who's kind of like shut down emotionally just because of the state that there's no point in hope or caring about shit. Everything's dying out. And the way he he's been devoid of hope for 20 years, so the way he kind of opens himself up to something, even though he's been this way for 20 years, it was just a beautiful character trajectory for me. And it wasn't even a 2-hour movie, so they did quite well for the allotted time they had.
Yeah, I mean, things are going to be bad when the government's giving you suicide pills you can take to check yourself out. But if you think about it, I mean, you're dealing with a situation where nobody's been born in 20 years. Whoever's here now is it,
the last remnants,
and they're killing each other off pretty quick. So it won't be too long before nobody left. So it's interesting. I mean, we don't really get a lot of answers. As I said, we don't get a lot of answers to why this has happened, or whether it's fixed at the end. I mean, is this gonna be a one and done? is
I like
but it's very ambivalent and lets you answer, it lets you think about it after the movie. It's the type of movie where you can think about, did this happen? Did this not happen? Everybody can build their own headcanon about what they think happened in the movie. Whether they want to be bleak about it or not. Maybe she got shot by the people on the boat. Who knows? Maybe Killer came up
that's why I like the ending, is because, I think it's kind of like your moral compass, your internal compass of where it's at by the time you finish the movie. Is because for me, I like the symbolism they use in the movie. Like they say Africa is the birthplace for humans. A Black woman was the one to conceive a child first. And for me, like the whole theme of children being symbols of hope throughout the film, that left me with like hope. Like the boat was called Tomorrow, like tomorrow, if you can make it through the day, make it till tomorrow, you always have hope. So for me, I was more optimistic towards the ending, but I like how it was designed. If you want it to be a bleak sci-fi movie where you think everything's just going to die out and they're going to take the baby and experiment, you're more than welcome to. I love endings like that. I used to not enjoy endings like that. I wanted a definitive answer, but as I get older, I find myself liking more open-ended things where you can kind of piece together your own story or ending, for something.
Right. I like that they didn't spell out everything. I don't like things nailed down tight.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing I think this movie has going for it is the fact that it opens and sets up a world that's believable within the first 10 minutes of the movie. That's, I think, important to a lot of these type of movies where they do
take notes,
establish their world, quick. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to know why this happened. You just have to know what's happened and what's coming from it, and they set that up without even, other than that news report in the beginning. It's
almost like background.
Yeah, it was all. In fact, they spoke about that. I think I sent you a video on this. That everything this movie tells about the plot is in the background. None of it
comes from characters,
and that's what the director wanted. None of it was coming from the characters. It all came from the background. You got everything the story was trying to tell you, where they are, where they were, where they're going, from the background and from seeing things in the different scenes. And that's hard to do. I mean, but that's why it's a movie also you have to really pay attention to.
Those subtle details in this movie, structure, they build the world,
Right.
And
definitely. And interesting too that they set it in Britain.
They're like the first, I would say, modern civilization that they're all about kind of what's he's saying Kingsman manners something. They're very about manners and old school stuff like that. So I thought that was an interesting choice for them being the last vestiges of
that makes sense.
Humanity.
I mean, look at us.
No, it did. Yeah.
Look at us. What happened during the and that wasn't even that bad. What could have happened if something like this happened? So I don't think we'd be staying too long.
I agree. Sadly.
Yeah. So I guess we'll go ahead and rate it. I would say for me, as movies go, dystopian sci-fi movies, it's one of the definite better ones. I'm going to give this, on a basis of 5 phasers, I'm going to give it a 4.5 phasers. I think it's a very good, well-written movie. It's a smart movie. It's bleak, but it's also hopeful. It's well acted. It's well paced. The cinematography is fantastic, and the music and score is great. The acting is great. So I mean, all around, as dystopian into the world movies type go, this is one of the better ones. Definitely a good one to watch. So I'm going to give it 4.5.
I agree with you on everything you said. I'm going to one up it. I'm going to give this one a 5 phasers. I think this is on the level of something like a Clockwork Orange, how Clockwork Orange was like years ahead in how humanity or society deals with people or problems. This one was ahead of its time by like 15 years. So even though we're still dealing with that stuff back then, but I think this film speaks more towards today's times than it did when it came out. And the editing, the camera work, everything, I think it's, they should this is a movie that's probably being taught in like film schools and should be on like the National Film Registry. I think this is like up there for like a testament to what we're capable of in art and filmmaking, all that stuff. It's a
I think
great
definitely
film.
As the years go on, I think it'll get more and more recognized. I mean,
it
also made me appreciate Clive Owen. Where did that boy go?
Yes, I'm so mad that he just fell off, man. Clive Owen was the man. He had set up so nicely, and he just kind of drifted off, dissipated.
I'm also upset because for a very short time before, after Pierce Brosnan, he was going to be considered to be the next James Bond, and he should have been.
I would have loved him. What?
Yes, he was.
Daniel Craig took him.
Yeah, they went with Craig. They went with Craig just because the time between movies, they had a bunch of legal issues in the time between Pierce Brosnan. In fact, Pierce Brosnan wanted to come back for another movie, but
no shit,
he wanted to do one more, and because they had some kind of legal issues, it took like 3-4 years to clear up. But they wanted to kind of go a different direction and reboot, and they were thinking about Clive Owen, and he would have been great in that role. He would have been perfect as James Bond. But that didn't happen, unfortunately.
Damn it, Daniel Craig.
But I'd like to see him back in some more movies because he is pretty dang good. He was good in Shoot 'Em Up too. That was another good one. Shoot 'Em Up.
Yeah, Paul Giamatti and what's it for? Yeah.
So he was good in a bunch of different stuff. So, definitely a good one. I'd recommend if you haven't seen it, go watch it because it's good. Maybe you might not.
It's a masterpiece.
Maybe wait till after Christmas, but
New Year's movie.
It's a New Year's movie. So, anybody watch, you want to put their score in the chat? That's great. Steph gives it a 5. I give it a 4.5. So I want to sound like Dylan here, but I'm going to say 4.69 because in that universe,
that's
you can do all fucking and don't have to worry about having no kids. So 4.69, baby. So that's Children of Men, and it's going to be a little shorter show tonight because, of course, at least I'm not sitting here by myself going, "Hey, Dave, do you think that was a good movie?" Yeah, it's fucking pretty good.
I would still watch that.
And that may indeed happen. So then we'll have to deal with that as it may happen. So I thank Steph for coming on. So next week, next week we have not much going on next week. We're going to be alone for the end of the year because I believe Robbie is not having a show this week. And Dylan is also not having a show this week. So Dylan is back on the 30th, I believe, doing his show where he's going to do Terror Train with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Choo.
And I will be back on the 29th, I believe it is, somewhere in that area. That Monday, next Monday, whatever that is, day after Christmas, it's going to be the 26th. And we're going to be doing another Kubrick film. That's 2001: A Space Odyssey. And this time, we're supposed to have some people here. We're going to have Robbie supposed to show. And I think Dylan will be here for that. And Steph's going to be here. We're going
to have two debuts. Fable and Robbie will be making their first appearances.
Fable's going to be coming. So we got Fable coming in too. And it's a long movie, but it's not as long as either the Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, 3, 4, and 5 or Storm of the Century. So thank God for that. So
I knew it was coming.
Yeah, I know. But maybe I'll make on this show sometime. Maybe I'll do a sci-fi miniseries just to fuck it all up. You know, I gotta think of one. We'll do
Battlestar Galactica.
William Shatner's Tech War or something like that. I don't know. I can't think of too many sci-fi miniseries. There wasn't a whole lot of them. Oh, V is the granddaddy. We could do V. You ever see V?
Did they do a remake?
They did a remake which sucked balls. Okay. But did you see the original?
I've never seen the original.
It's basically lizards and invading, and it's good.
The Illuminati?
They're kind of like the Illuminati. It actually was an allegory for the Holocaust, this movie.
Okay.
It was interesting. Okay. It was the 80s, you know. And it gave one of the first roles to Robert Englund was in this. Had a big role, and he was in the TV version as well.
Did this come out before Freddy?
Yes, it was before Freddy.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Nice.
And he played an alien, but a good alien. So.
What a juxtapose to Freddy.
I know. So maybe we'll have to do that sometime. But next week, 2001, A Space Odyssey. Be here. This should be an interesting conversation, as long as I'm not just talking to myself about it. So we'll see what happens.
That'll still be a great conversation.
And meanwhile, since this is the last show before Christmas, I want to wish you all a happy holiday, Merry Christmas. Go watch yourself some good sci-fi, not too many Christmas sci-fi movies. So you're gonna have to watch some like Silent Night, Deadly Night, or Christmas, Bloody Christmas, or Black Christmas, or something like that. I don't know. Sci-Fi Jingle All the Way. That's a comedy.
Yeah, that's a great film. Great film.
Can you think of any other sci-fi Christmas? Oh, wait a minute. Well, Gremlins is more of a horror. But you might be able to say Gremlins.
You could be considered
Gremlins is on the
sci-fi.
edge, maybe.
Yeah.
Can't think of too many
but
other
that's a
ones.
good one. No, I really can't.
Yeah. But I'm sure there are. I'll just look it up. Maybe next year we'll do something that's more Christmas orientated. But have a good holiday, everybody. And we'll catch you next week for 2001, A Space Odyssey. And until then, keep doing what you're doing. And we'll catch y'all later. Bye, y'all.